and welcome to the first of Plus61J's video coverage of the criminal proceedings against former Adust Girls' School principal, Malka Leifer. My name is Julie Szego. I'm a contributing journalist at Plus61J. And today I'll be giving you a summary of the first day in these long-awaited proceedings that have made global headlines. Ms. Leifer faces multiple charges of child sex abuse relating to three sisters, each former students at the ultra-Orthodox Elsternwick School. She has at all times maintained her innocence. I'll also be speaking to Manny Wax, a global campaigner against child sex abuse, and someone who has been very closely involved in the protracted legal battle to extradite Ms. Leifer from Israel so she can have her charges tested in court. And that legal battle took roughly 7 years, and it ended with Ms. Leifer's extradition earlier this year. And as far as today went, the sole purpose of today's hearing in Melbourne's Magistrate Court is to determine if there's sufficient evidence for Ms. Leifer to stand trial. It's not the trial itself. And of course, today was just the first day in what we call a committal hearing. And it's also an online hearing. So if you're wondering why I'm speaking to you from here and not outside the courtroom, for those of you watching from overseas, Melbourne is in the midst of a strict coronavirus lockdown. And for the most part, the courts are doing their work virtually. So the presiding magistrate sits in a courtroom, but the opposing legal teams are in separate locations. And Malka Leifer participates in the hearing from prison. Today, we saw her seated in a small, fairly bare room. There was just an extra chair in the room. There was a masked guard at the door. The 55-year-old wore a white turban-style headscarf and a blue top. We've seen her wear that before in previous hearings. And throughout the hearing, she kept her head down and a hand over her face. At one point, the magistrate, Johanna Metcalf, asked her if she could see and hear the courtroom. She did not answer immediately, so the guard asked her again. At that point, she momentarily lifted her head and said, yes, yes. Ms. Leifer faces 74 charges relating to child sex abuse, including 11 charges of rape allegedly committed between 2004 and 2008 in Melbourne and parts of regional Victoria. Now, under Victorian law, the complainants in sexual offences proceedings are not identified unless they request otherwise, which is what they did in this instance. The court granted permission for the sisters to identify themselves. They are Ellie Sapper, Dussie Ehrlich, and Nicole Meyer. The magistrate then asked the barrister for the prosecution, Nanette Rogers, whether the complainants wanted Ms. Leifer concealed from their direct line of vision as they were giving evidence, and Ms. Rogers said the complainants did not need that. Also under Victorian law, however, complainants in sexual assault proceedings give their evidence in camera. So the court is closed to the media. The sisters are the first 3 of 10 expected witnesses in this initial hearing. And so the court was closed for most of the day as that evidence began. They are giving their evidence via video link and they have a support person beside them. And the other relevant thing to note about this case is that it is expected to last this week and a bit of next week, and that coincides with Yom Kippur, which falls on Thursday, Australian time. Ms. Leifer, through her counsel, sought the court's permission to be excused from attending court on the Thursday so she could mark the day with religious observance. She said she was content for the court to keep sitting in her absence. The magistrate made an order allowing the proceedings to continue in her absence. So the hearing continues tomorrow.